Start spreading the news. It's the League Two playoffs, and we're previewing them here on Not the Top 20 podcast, sponsored by Sky Bet and the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund. Sunday, the 10th of May, 3 o'clock, Grimsby, Salford, 6 p.m, Chesterfield, Notts County. We're going to preview both semi-finals, focusing on each team in turn. And this is a hybrid show as well. It's a mixture of our Monday podcast and our betting show as well. So we will be making some betting picks for either the individual ties and certainly some outright picks at the end of it. We'll start with Salford and Grimsby. We must declare George's bias here. He has in-law family in Grimsby country.
But then, Carl Robinson for a while was basically my father-in-law.
What an incredible image that is.
Just to be clear, that was a joke about him being an Oxford manager. Though I had no relationship with his children whatsoever.
That seems like a decent thing to make clear.
Thanks.
Salford City finished fourth. It's their highest ever league finish, beating seventh under Neil Wood a couple of years ago. I remember fancying them in the playoffs that year, and they lost on pens to Stockport. Ouch. Finished eighth last season and fourth this time, but they will feel they could and should have gone up automatically, and that's for a few different reasons. A, the penalty not given on final day. Unbelievable, really, that they didn't get given a penalty at Crawley. They also missed some chances of their own. The ref may have made an error. They made some errors too in front of goal. Let's not forget that. And maybe more importantly than that, in late Jan to early March, they just randomly lost 6 in 8 games. When they were in good form before then, they were in good form after that. It absolutely killed them. Salford, one of the biggest budgets, one of the best squads in the division. That is what they've put together for Carl Robinson. And I'd say he's been a good fit for Salford City to get them almost where they want to get to, which many others have failed before him. I think kind of typical for his career, really. I'd say they are mostly very good, but also just sometimes randomly they have an absolute shocker.
Sometimes they're not very good.
Yeah. In terms of style, this is different, I think, and maybe interesting to anyone who watched a lot of Robinson's MK Dons or his Oxford teams. They're playing 4-4-2, and by any metric, they are one of the most direct teams in League Two. They do not play through the thirds at all. This is not sexy football in its sort of general aesthetic terms, but they play in a way that's been very, very effective. I mean, part of this is because the pitch at Salford is not good enough to play a lot of short passes on, and there are still some managers in League Two who might try and force it, but Robinson has gone for this approach, which has taken them into fourth. Brandon Cooper and Ade Aluwo, the centre-backs, very solid. At right back, they go for either Ollie Turton or Haji Minoga. They are defence-minded right backs, I'd say. On the left, they've got Luke Garbett, who gets on down the left side quite a lot, provides the whip there, and whips in a lot of crosses, a lot of delivery from deep from Garbett, takes a lot of their set pieces. He may be their left back, but he's their playmaker, really. Plays the most passes per 90 of this Salford team. He's the one, we say they play a lot of long passes. He's the one that they ask to play forward with quality. In central midfield recently, they've switched it up all season, but recently it's been Butcher and Chesterfield in the centre of the park. George Grant is an excellent player as well. He sometimes plays kind of tucked in off the left in this nominal 4-4-2, sometimes plays centrally and has had a couple of big moments recently over the last couple of months. Kelly Namai also an option to play off the left now that he's back fit. And off the right, Rosaire Longello in general has been starting on the right flank. And up top, it's Graydon and it's Udo. Ryan Graydon, they went out and bought in January, gave him a reportedly eye-watering wage. And Graydon is an excellent League Two striker, but he's been poor in front of goal for Salford. He's a real all-rounder. He's got size, speed, strength. He's intelligent, brings others into play. For whatever reason, it's not worked for him in front of goal, but I'm the sort of guy that generally backs players like him long-term, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has a big say in these games. Udo as well can provide quality and firepower at the drop of a hat. And off the bench, they've got Fabio Barini and Cole Stockton waiting in the wings as well. So lots of options for Carl Robinson. Weirdly, I wouldn't say it's a team with lots of great players for this level in particular. It's not really a team with stars, I wouldn't say. The actual team, how they look on the pitch. Matty Young's worth mentioning in goal. Young keeper on loan from Sunderland. Second season there. He's played loads of football at a very young age and, following a similar path to a Jordan Pickford or a Carl Rushworth, for example. Graydon I've already mentioned. And for the neutral, there aren't that many young players, but Kelly Namai and Callum Cisse, both injured recently, both available on final day, and nice options for Robinson to have here. In terms of the matches between these two teams, well, Grimsby had the upper hand in both. They won 2-0 at Salford in October, and they won 3-1 at home to Salford in March. George, tell me about Grimsby. Why did they finish 7th and Salford finish 4th if they were better than Salford on the 2 occasions they met?
Because league tables are lie. Oh. No, I mean, there are a few reasons for this. I mean, there's an argument that Grimsby should have been in the top 3, or at least in the running for the top 3. If you look at their numbers over the course of the season, if you look at their form early in the campaign, you look at their form in the last couple of months, you're left wondering why they weren't. And I think a key reason for why they weren't, as we've discussed a lot on the Monday pod, is because they had an incredible cup run, which understandably derailed their season to an extent back in kind of October time. They beat Manchester United at Blundell Park, which was remarkable. The fixture congestion, I think probably the magnitude of the whole situation seemed to rock the boat for a little bit, which probably put paid to their ambitions of finishing in the top 3. But for the most part, they've been so strong. They've won 7 of their last 10 games to finish the season. I think we can kind of ignore final day away at Tranmere, where Tranmere knew that they had to get something out of the game to stay up, and Grimsby knew they were going to finish in the top 7. And there's not much to choose between these two teams. There wasn't really a massive incentive for them to make sure they didn't finish 7th. Really, they put 4 past Gillingham. They had a huge game, almost like a bit of an audition for the playoffs when they were hosting, Swindon in the penultimate game, and they beat them 4-0. They had kind of struggled on the road for quite a lot of the season, but before the Tranmere game had won 3 in a row, so they've kind of put that behind them. They're just an incredibly good team, and I think that Dave Artell is just one of those guys, one of those managers who, given time to build something, can build a really attractive, attacking League Two football team, and that's exactly what they are. They aren't an aggressively heavy possession side. They have relatively high possession, but they take risks on the ball. That they're not a team that look just to retain the ball for the sake of it. We'll get onto a couple of those shortly. They press. The 2 lowest PPDAs in the whole of League Two are Salford and Grimsby. So I think we're going to see a pretty chaotic affair here, with both teams basically looking to be pretty direct on the ball, but also looking to press away from it. They got the highest expected goals in the league, and the 4th best expected goals against, which would normally equate to being one of the best teams in the league for the most part. And they've got a really nice balance throughout their team. In McJanet, they've got one of the most solid, kind of decent on the ball, very good defensively centre backs in the league. Harvey Rogers was the team in the League Two team of the season at right back. In Kieran Green, they've got a guy who's mercurial in possession, who scores a range of different kinds of goals, who is creative as well. And Charles Vernham, we've got one of the few guys who's got the double-double in the EFL this season, 10 goals and 10 assists. A brilliant goal threat off that left-hand side, but also creative and a good ball carrier. Jay Scabia, who's moved out to that left since Andy Cook came in, which has really benefited him. His first season in the EFL, coming to the EFL relatively late. Is he 25?
And the Faroese geezer. David Geza-Touré, who took his time to make his way into the first team, but hasn't really looked back. And
no.
It's quite a strong midfield unit, isn't it?
Kind of displaced, I think, McEachran in terms of being that kind of midfield linchpin. And then Andy Cook, who is a really shrewd signing, just someone to give them a bit of know-how and a bit of physicality up top too, replacing Danny Rose. So they're just a really good team. And, spoiler alert, I think they're the best team of the 4, basically, and they aren't being priced up that way. A quick look at the prices for this with Sky Bet has Salford as the 9-4 favourites, Notts County 5-2, second favourites, Chesterfield 11-4, and Grimsby 3-1. Last season, Chesterfield were opened up in this market as a 7-2 outsiders of 4, and they were favourites by the time they kicked off against Walsall. We've seen a bit of movement Grimsby's way, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if Grimsby Favs come kick off in this game, because I think there are loads of reasons to think that they're the best team out of the 4.
I think Blundell Park is going to be rocking. I believe in the however much of a sample size we have over the last 4 seasons of Grimsby being really good in cup competitions, no matter who their opposition are. I like all of that stuff, and I think that they're going to win the first leg. I think Grimsby to win to 0 at 3-1 is what I'm going to go for in the first leg of this game. I do think Salford are going to try and absolutely kill the atmosphere as best they can. I think they're going to play in a way that has the neutrals disgusted, to be honest. A lot of long balls, a lot of wasting time, slowing play down. They've had low scoring away games all season. Just try and make it as ugly as possible. And trust the individual quality that they have rather than trying to be expansive. But I think Grimsby will be ready for it. I think Grimsby win to 0 3-1 in the first leg is my selection.
Nice. I've got Grimsby just to win the first leg at 11-10. As I say, I think they are valued to do it, and I think that they are this home tie again, similar to the Bolton case. Like Artell and Grimsby are going to know that they have to get ahead, travelling to Salford for the second leg if they're going to make it count. And the way they're playing at the moment, and especially their ability to score goals at home. I think they'll do it.
Next up, Notts County against Chesterfield. Big grin on my face as I read out that tie, because it strikes me that one of the things that takes a playoff semi-final tie to the next level is if there is a genuine hatred and a rivalry between the two teams. It just makes it mean more. It makes it feel bigger. And the previous game between these two teams was an absolute soap opera. It was about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks. It was a 3-2 win for Chesterfield, in which Notts County's Ollie Norburn was sent off for throwing a shoe off the pitch. I've done a genuine snort on the pod. That doesn't happen very often. He threw a shoe off the pitch. It was his second yellow. After that was early on in the first half, and even before that, Norburn looked like he wanted to murder Armando Dobra, who had left one on Tangen early on and got away with it. And Norburn's head went and he was sent off, and Chesterfield won a game 3-2. It was actually a bit tighter at 10v11 than you might have expected. And that was, it's a hell of a lead into our preview of this game. George, tell me about Paul Cook's Spy Rights.
Yeah, so Paul Cook's Spy Rights were our top of the table in our 1-24s after an amazing end to last season and then a playoff semi-final defeat. And it didn't really go the way that we thought it would. Like last season, they were kind of the data darlings of the league, ball dominance, and under Paul Cook, it kind of felt like they developed into the best team in the division, but were unable to kind of show that against the Walsall side, who were magnificent. In the two-legged semis, but this season's been pretty stop-start. They've never really been able to find their groove. In January, they recruited heavily, and I would say recruited really well, as I'll get to shortly. But what it means is that having kind of been around 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th for most of the season, they've gone on this run, as they did at the end of last season, to get into the playoffs, where they are undoubtedly the best version of themselves right now. Like the Chesterfield that we're seeing at the moment are the best that Chesterfield have been all season. They're unbeaten in the last 8. They've won 6 of those 8. And that has been when the pressure has been on. Like they've had to chase and they've had to fight their way in. And then crucially on final day away at Swindon, they had to make sure they didn't lose the game to get into the playoffs. And they won it, and they won it well. So it feels like at every, having not been able to trust them much for much of the campaign, with every step forward they took, they then go and lose a game shortly afterwards. A real inability to keep clean sheets. They kept 4 clean sheets in the last 8, and it feels like the penny is kind of dropped with them. With Cook, you've obviously got no concerns about the manager at all. Someone who we know how capable he is of building a very good, successful football team. And I sometimes wonder if is a Paul Cook team suited to League Two because of the heavy possession and the way that he likes to play. And I guess that's something of a concern coming into this. But what we have here is kind of statistically bizarrely similar teams when it comes to possession, where Chesterfield have the highest possession in the league with Notts County 5th. But in terms of passes attempted, Chesterfield are top and Notts County are second. In terms of successful passes, which you'd think would be pretty similar, Notts County are top and Chesterfield are second. Oh. In terms of touches in the opposition box, Chesterfield have 9 more than Notts County. Like in ball progression and passing terms, they're kind of the same. Nice. And even their expected goals over the season, Chesterfield 62.69, Notts County 62.52, separated by 0.4 of an XG. there are massive differences in terms of the way they approach things out of possession, and Notts County's defensive numbers all season have been much better. However, as I say, Chesterfield's defensive numbers in the last 8 have been better anyway, so you can almost kind of forget about what came before. And I think a key part of that is the arrival of 2 players in Swinkles and Braybrook, who... Swinkles at the back, Braybrook at midfield. Braybrook has come in from Newport County, where he was sensational in that first loan, and he's become that player that everything goes to in the middle of the park. He's averaging the most passes in the Chesterfield team by miles. Basically, the job of their defensive unit is to feed Braybrook to then dictate from there. And Swinkles is also very good on the ball and has enabled him to come in and also dominate possession in the way that they like to do. McFadden's still a big player. Naylor, Dunkley, like they've got this core of like older players with a sprinkling of youthful exuberance around. Another thing to note is there's been a goalkeeper change at Chesterfield where Zach Hemming had been brilliant all season. There's a quote from January, I think Paul Cook says he's the best keeper in the league. He got injured. Das Boot came in and has been unbelievable since coming into the side. Saved that crucial penalty against Grimsby, and Hemming now can't get his way back into the team, and Boot will be the goalkeeper, I'm pretty sure, for the playoff campaign. And then, as is always the way with Chesterfield, they've got the sprinkling of diminutive wide players, dribbly wide players, Markande, Dobra, Berry, who basically like dribbling and like shooting and are inconsistent, but when they're on it, they're really good. Dobra and Markande in particular, 2 key players for them. So, a high possession team with loads of talent, loads of experience, loads of, Braybrook in particular. I'm excited to see how he performs in these playoff games. I feel like he could be the one to really kind of make a name for himself here. But it's funny because you've got 2 heavy possession teams against each other with a massive rivalry dropped on top. And rivalries generally tend to make games quite bitty and quite scrappy because there are more fouls and there are more niggly challenges and other things. So I don't really know how this game is going to look.
Nice. Notts County season narrative. Yeah, strange few years really for Notts County. Came back into the EFL in much better shape than they lost it and then they left it. They're a big club for this level. They have the biggest fan base. They have the highest attendance, but they've not got the deep owner funding pockets in terms of like supercharging budgets like an MK or a Salford. So biggest fan base, big history for the level, big club for the level, but not necessarily able to dominate the transfer market, if you like. And they take a very different approach. Their owners are very, very heavily data-driven, probably more so than any other team at this level. They came up with Luke Williams as their manager, and they were in the playoff places halfway through their first season back at the level. Williams got poached by Swansea. They tanked and finished bottom half. Then last season, under Stuart Maynard, they made the playoffs. They finished in the top 7. But they finished so poorly and offered so little against Wimbledon over 2 legs that Maynard got sacked, and it felt like a really poor, underwhelming end to the season. It felt like maybe they were sliding a bit. They appointed Martin Patterson over the summer, and in doing so, they unveiled a newly formed technical board. And their description of what that technical board would do really rubbed people up the wrong way. Good God, it rubbed people up the wrong way. And it was enough to lead to loads of people, including us to a certain extent, predicting quite an awkward season for them. Things didn't smell right. That's what people seemed to think. But it hasn't been an awkward season. It's been a pretty good season. They almost went up automatically. Could have done on final day. They got 8 points more than last season. It was also, like last season, quite a bad end to the season. And so I don't feel like a huge swell of bullish belief from this biggest fan base in the league. Martin Patterson, the manager, changed the style, broadly the same basic shape, but he's dialed down the obsession with possession and kind of territory dominance. I think that's a good thing, appropriate for League Two football 2026. More pragmatic out of possession, much less of a soft touch, but perhaps a little less gung-ho in terms of their tactical approach in possession. And it's worked, I'd say, broadly. They've scored more than last season, so dialing down the possession focus hasn't made them worse going forward. Their XG is not amazing, 11th best attack per XG, 4th best defence. So that is one thing he really, really improved on, and that's given them a pretty high floor this season. The players really seem to have bought into Martin Patterson, so I think his reputation should have grown a lot this season, and I hope that it does, because I think he's done a really good job. But they finished the season in poor form. They lost big games in their last 8. They lost to Oldham. They lost to Cambridge 4-0. They lost to Barnet. They lost to Salford, all in the last month or so of the season. And that's why they didn't get over the line for autos. They did have some absences, which didn't help. Most of those players have now returned, and they feel like they've got their best players back heading into the playoffs. The basic shape, as I say, 3 at the back. In the last couple of games, they've just had the one sitter in Ollie Norburn. Then they've had Tom Iopenda playing next to him, but box to box always. Really great athlete, Iopenda. Covers a lot of ground and supports attacks from deep. Then 2 number 10s in front of him in Connor Grant and Jaden Luca. Attacking wing-backs, Jody Jones on the left, Nick Cerula on the right. So they've been very attacking in the last couple of games on paper. Attacking with 6, really, I would say. Very heavy focus down the left side because of Jody Jones. That makes sense. You know, he's not the player that he was 2 years ago. He's not putting up record-breaking numbers, but he still does what Jody Jones does. Gets balls into the box with quality. And Jacob Badeau, the left centre-back, is quite good in terms of galloping forward and supporting attacks from deep. So I'm interested in the team selection here from Patterson because Matty Palmer and Scott Robertson are both back and available, and they're really strong in deeper midfield areas with Norburn, Palmer, Robertson. But Norburn, he's the only one that started the last couple of games, and they've had this quite attacking mentality. But I assume for the first leg, they will put an extra man at the base of midfield. They will take out one of Grant or Luca, and they'll put in one of Palmer or Robertson. That would be my guess, with Iopenda pushing up higher. He's equally comfortable in the 10 role as he is in the kind of number 8 role. So that's a strong part of the pitch for them. At the back, that's where they've got absences, Platt and Macari, but the back 3 of Luca Ness, Concrete Rod McDonald, Jacob Badeau, pretty good to be honest. And the wing-backs, as mentioned, you've got Jones and Cerula. Belshaw in goal, probably been an upgrade on Keller Roos since he came in January. Obviously has a really strong emotional connection to the club, a boyhood fan. Certainly his dad is or was a season ticket holder, and I think James was as well. So that's a really nice narrative here. And at the top of the pitch, Jata up top, but Matthew Dennis and Leon Love as well as bench options. Dennis and Jata both scoring a better than 0.5 goals per 90 this season. So both very dangerous. And Love, a different option off the bench. Not a goal scorer, but offers a lot in terms of all-round game. I just want to mention Jaden Luca, because heading into this prep and research, I wouldn't have expected his name to come up here, but he started the last couple of games. He's only played 369 minutes in total this season, on loan from Luton. But 2 goals and 3 assists in that time, and looked very, very bright in the last couple of games from what I saw. So it could be someone that, having had next to no impact this season, could come on pretty strong and be a bit of a star of the playoffs for Notts County. Such an excellent tie this. You said you don't know how it's going to go. I'm certainly not incredibly bullish on this, but maybe because I've done the research, and maybe because I think that the poor end to the season is slightly linked to, or mainly linked to, the absences, which are now out the way. I think I do lean Notts County, who obviously finished 4th, and Chesterfield finished 7th. I can see a tight first leg, despite Chesterfield's attacking mentality, and I could see that being a draw or kind of 1 goal in it either side. And then I think Notts at home will do the business. So I lean Notts County to progress. In terms of a betting pick for the first leg, I'll go Notts County draw no bet at 6-4 with Sky Bet.
I'm bottling it. I'm just going unders at 4-5, under 2.5 at 4-5. As I say, it's given the rivalry and given the way that these first legs tend to be so cagey, I think this could be a great watch from a neutral's perspective if you like that kind of thing. But I'd be surprised if it's goal heavy, despite both teams seeing a fair few goals in their games. But I think that's what's giving us the backable price.
A lot of exciting players on the pitch here. Braybrook, Dobra in full flight is a hell of a player at this level in the kind of number 10-ish role, or even off the left. And then for Notts, you got Big Jatta up top. You got Jody Jones as well. Tom Iopenda been one of the best loanees in the EFL this season. Lots to look forward to in both of these ties. In terms of the outright picks, George, what's quite good is that the team that I think are going to win the playoffs are also the outsiders with Sky Bet. Grimsby Town, my selection at 3-1. I really think it's a fascinating quad, and I don't think this is cut and dried by any means, but all things considered, I think Grimsby have got it in them to go and win from 7th spot.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm Grimsby here as well. I don't see how they're the outsiders of the 4, frankly. So yeah, I'm with you, and that means that my Trixie or treble, depending on the way you want to do it, is Millwall at 9-4 in Championship, Stockport at 9-4 in League One, and Grimsby at 3-1 in League Two.
Yeah, and mine is Southampton in the Championship, Stevenage in League One, and Grimsby in League Two. What fun that is. I'll get in a quick apology. I think I've mentioned once or twice that Chesterfield finished 7th. They didn't. That's the 5th v 6th tie. So you'll have already commented. But if you've got to this point, apologies for that. I won't bother replying to the comments. Cannot wait for the League Two playoffs. Do come and watch with us on Monday the 11th. Championship game, Millwall against Hull. At Philomena's in Covent Garden. We're having a meet-up to celebrate 10 years of Not the Top 20. And it'd be great to see as many of you there as possible. But during the first legs, we'll be getting behind the mic as much as possible to try and give some reaction to the first legs and after the second legs and a playoff final preview as well. So with thanks to you for listening, thank you and go well.